Buongiorno, Barevdis. My name is Karen and I'm from Russia.
We are currently studying at UWC Dilijan, completing our second year of the IB diploma program. This event is the first out of 3 virtual open days, and we would like to introduce our speakers. Gabriel Ernesto Abad Fernandez, Head of College, Sophie Dunker, Deputy Head, English and Theory of Knowledge Teacher and IB Coordinator, Joe, English Teacher, Harvey Miller, University Counselor, Lucia from Spain, our alumni, and Jeppe from Denmark, another alumni. Special thanks to Future Studios for hosting this event, and thank you everyone for joining. If you have any questions throughout the session, please leave them in the Q&A box. We will answer them at the end of the virtual day.
As we have gathered at the time of great concern of the fate of Artsakh, we thought that we will start this session with a video which features our students and how they feel about the situation.
Armenia has welcomed us with open arms, and we got to experience the culture of Armenia and experience the people, and it's a home for us that has been created, and it's heartbreaking to see that they're going through so much heartache.
I understand I'm really privileged to be in this position, in this place, where we have like safety and a roof over our head when there are people fighting in the front lines in the same country as us.
I really feel at home in Armenia, and it's a country and a people that I love so much, and it really, really hurts me to see a country that I care about so much go through this.
I would say that I've been living here for more than a year, and I definitely can call Armenia my second home because it's my first country when I'm living abroad. And I know a lot of really friendly, really warm Armenian people, and it's really difficult for me to see them struggling in their own country.
This is a country that has experienced such a horrifying history with the genocide.
Even though it's the most critical times for this nation, it's also a demonstration of how patriotic and united Armenians can be at this very difficult time.
Well, back home, I think this was the first time that Armenia was ever on the television, but it was just 2 days of headline news and then it disappeared.
It not only concerns the both sides, but all over the world. So I think that people have to share and talk about the conflict.
Not talking about it sets a precedent that is not something they want to set. It's something which is ignoring something just by virtue of it happening in the past and in a country which they don't normally cover. I think it's very important for them to set a precedent of covering conflicts like this so that in the future nothing bad happens.
I think that if media reported on it, international authorities would act more swiftly and be able to stop it in its tracks before it develops into something worse.
But I think right now it's really important that people are conscious of the situation and just with a share or a person, I think they can contribute.
Armenia is my home for 1 year now because I'm in UWC Dilijan, and I think what's happening in Armenia touches everyone who lives in Armenia like us and also outside of Armenia.
Well, this is a regional problem that's affecting more than just one country, and this is something that can only be solved by peace.
Can't wait for the day when peace will arrive in Artsakh.
The outcome of war is days and destruction.
Peace is a necessity. It is. Inner peace, outward peace, societal peace.
Exactly. And war will not benefit anyone. There may be reasons as to why to start a war, but in the end, no one wins. Not only do we lose lives, we lose stories, we lose people who could change the world in the future.
When we see kids having to leave their everyday life, they have to leave their school, their friends, to become refugees, I think it's just totally horrible and definitely something we should do something about.
I believe people need to know the things that children are going through. Children who didn't sign up for such things to happen in their lives. And I feel if people know more about what's going on, they can help in ways that they can help by giving back, donating funds, and ways that they feel they can't do personally that will meet people who are going through this situation.
We're all together in this, so we should all know about it and we should all do something.
Please donate to this fundraiser.
The please donate to this fundraiser to help the many children who have lost their fathers, who have lost half of their lives because of this war.
Exactly, we may not be able to relate, or at least not all of us, but there is something we can do, and it is in our hands to donate and help as much as we can to make sure we can change the way things are going.
This video, I think, reflects the ethos of UWC and the commitment of our students to be part of the global movement that aims to unite people, nations, and cultures through education for peace and a sustainable future. In fact, today, 14th of October, is 6 years since UWC was officially opened in 2014. And I am delighted to give floor to Gabriel, who has been head of UWC Dilijan since 2018.
Camille, UWC Dilijan is an independent, not-for-profit international boarding school, quite unique, the first of its kind in Armenia and in the region. It was conceived as a force for good in the post-Soviet space. Back in 2014, a group of far-sighted individuals led by its founders, Ruben Vardanian, Veronica Sonaven, established UWC Dilijan in Armenia, on the ancient Silk Road connecting Asia and Europe. It is literally at a crossroads of Europe, the Middle East, and Russia. It is a location which symbolizes the idea of internationalism and friendship. Our founders believe in the transformational power of education and of its impact on young people from diverse geographies, cultures, and backgrounds. Financially, the school relies on philanthropic contributions from generous individuals to support our scholarship program, and of course, on our own fees. We are one of the 18 UWC schools worldwide, and our admissions are coordinated by a UWC network of national committees. It is pertinent to mention now that the first UWC, Atlantic College, established in Wales back in 1962, came about just at the end of Second World War. It was a consequence, actually. And it was created by a group of visionary individuals led by Kurt Hahn, the famous German educator. UWC schools and colleges share a mission to make education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. And it's based on this idea of the multidimensional diversity of the student body, fostering respect for the differences, that UWC aims to nurture through a rigorous, well-rounded education, engage global citizens inspired by the ideals of our common shared humanity. My colleagues will talk to you further about a UWC style and an IB education, but given the circumstances we're in, I would like to address two issues that are affecting UWC Dilijan right now and might be a concern for you. Let me start with the pandemic. In spite of the fact that our students were evacuated back in March and we have to move our learning program online, the school right now has a full enrollment with 220 students out of 226 on our campus right now. The Armenian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Armenian Ministry of Health help us immensely by facilitating visas, approving our COVID-19 protocols, allowing entry of students and staff back into Armenia. We've taken all the measures needed and we continue to take precautions, like wearing masks and not allowing visitors on our campus. We're very lucky that we have a wonderful, spacious campus, so even when we have to be confined, we can move around and we can experience the outdoors. Secondly, regarding the current situation, it is obviously very serious. While we're far away from the conflict zone, of course we're affected through our Armenian staff, through our Armenian students, and we express our support for them. We monitor the situation, have an evacuation plan in place, and we keep in touch with the embassies and in very close contact with the parents, guardians, keeping everyone informed. The government of Armenia is very supportive of UWC Dilijan and is fully aware that we have students representing 80 nations of the world, and they are also responsible for the safety and the security of all members of our community. Let me assure you, the safety of our students and staff is our biggest priority, and as of now, we've done everything we can to make sure that everyone is healthy and safe on our campus. Lastly, thank you very much for your interest in UWC Dilijan and for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Now we would like to talk to Sophie, and Sophie, we would like to ask you some questions, mostly about IB and experiential learning in our school. So the first question, how would you characterize IB as a program? What does it teach? And what is the strength of it?
Well, the answer to that one has to be that first of all, it is a program. And what I mean by that is that the subjects that students study, 6 subjects and 3 of them at higher level and 3 at standard level, do actually have connections. And those connections are built into the program as such. So the subjects are meant to cover the different areas. So we have languages, we have humanities, we have mathematics, we have the sciences and the arts. And the idea is to actually continue that holistic education up to the university entry level. If you compare it to A-levels, for example, the idea is that students need to specialize at the age of 16 and decide what the 3 A-level subjects they want to pursue are going to be. In the IB, you actually have the chance of continuing a broader education and then making decisions for university which are a little bit more informed, and you are actually a little bit more adult and a little bit more aware of what might be your future career path. So that is the first difference. The second one, I think, has to be that the connections are built into the curriculum. So in each subject, you would be looking at other perspectives, you would be looking at other ways of analyzing your particular topic. And you would also be studying a 7th subject, theory of knowledge, which very explicitly looks at the different subject groups and makes those connections from a philosophical perspective. So that, I think, would be the essential idea behind the program.
Thank you very much, Sophie. So another question is, what do you like about IB? Is it probably the additional components that are there, such as extended essay or TOK, as you mentioned? Could you please elaborate on that?
Okay, that could be a very long answer, so stop me if I go on for too long. I've been teaching the IB for 30 years, so I think I probably know it quite well. And it is the fact that what we do in the classroom is rooted in reality. So you mentioned the extra components. We have the extended essay that every student has to write about a subject he or she is passionate about. And that is looking towards university. So it is a proper academic research essay, which is pushing students forward a little bit and preparing them for that university work. It is also CAS, Creativity, Activity and Service, which is our extracurricular program. But students are invited to make those links between what they're learning in class and the CAS activity that they choose. To give an example, I have a student who is teaching Chinese to local students in the community center. So what she is actually herself learning in the language course that she is doing herself, she is translating into her own teaching of her mother tongue in Armenia. So that kind of linkage may not be obvious when you start in the IB, but looking from my perspective, all of that is really built into the approaches and the teaching that we do. So that is, I think, what makes it special. If I could just talk about a lesson that I visited today, was a physics lesson, which to me was amazing because I know nothing about physics. I was very bad at it in school myself. But I walked into an 80-minute lesson and I was fascinated by what was going on. Students were working in groups. They were using very sophisticated technology. They were logging the progression of a tennis ball. They were filming this, and they were then doing mathematical calculations with what they had seen. And it was very clear to them that this was preparation for the coursework that they would be doing later on. They were learning a skill that they would be able to apply into an independent research of their own later on. Yesterday, I went into a biology lesson where we looked at genetics, and students were working out what the probability was of children of parents of a certain height being, I don't know, tall or short or whatever. So there's always that practical element. There's always the reminder that what you're learning in class actually affects the life outside. That's what I find fascinating.
Thank you very much, Sophie. We have one more question, which is about IB in the context of UWC. So what we mean by this question, are there any values that the IB program and UWC share, and how do they go together? What is your opinion about that?
Well, it is, I think, built into the history of the UWC, because the UWCs were invented, let's say, in the same kind of educational context as the IB. So this was all post-Second World War. So the idea of peaceful coexistence came out of the experience of the First and the Second World War in Europe. You mentioned Kurt Hahn earlier, Gabriel. I'm German, so Kurt Hahn is somebody I know very well, and he was profoundly affected by the experience of the First World War, and then witnessing the Second World War relatively soon after that. So this idea of not having learned anything from the war experience made him think about how this could be converted into the educational fabric. And so I think UWC and IB are inseparable, because the whole idea of educating for a peaceful and sustainable future, the skills you learn, the holistic perspective that you get in the classroom is immediately taken out into the boarding component, into the residences, where you actually continue those conversations. And in the classroom, you are with these students from all the other countries, you get their perspectives. If you are in a location like we are at the moment in Armenia, the whole idea of peaceful coexistence is real. It is actually what you are living. So does that answer the question?
It does. Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you for this valuable information.
We would like now to move on to Joe. We have some questions for you as well. I would like to start with this first question. What is special about teaching and learning at UWC Dilijan?
Okay, so I'll speak a little bit in general, and then I'll also talk about my own subject, which is English. So first of all, I joined the college in January, and since then I've been really struck by how highly motivated everybody is, not just students, although students are very motivated, but also staff and the unique things that staff will come up with in their spare time. So for example, one of my colleagues has developed a course in slavery studies because he felt there was a need for that, and in the current climate, you know, it seems more relevant than ever that he's done that, but that was something that he chose to work on during his summer in his own time. And then students are always coming up with new initiatives based on something that they've learned in class, and then they will take it further. So for example, one of my students felt that the IB course that he was doing was too centered on Western philosophy, and he's from China, so he wanted to make it more to cover more about Eastern philosophy, and that's a project that he started himself to inform his classmates and the wider community. So that's really, really special, and coming at it with a fresh pair of eyes, it was so wonderful for me as a teacher to come into this really rich learning environment. Then with my own subject, I teach English A language and literature, which is for people that want to analyse language and literary texts. And I also teach English B, which is more focused on global issues, and that's with non-native English speakers. So in English A, it's really special at UWC because I know that there will be a student from the country of the text that I am teaching. So for example, I'm doing Americana at the moment. I have a Nigerian student. So I have like a wealth of information that I would not otherwise have access to, and the class has access to. So that's fantastic. And then in English B, everybody's forced to speak English all of the time. And because we have such a diverse community, it's very rare that you'll have two people in an English B class that speak the same language. So it's a good learning opportunity for them. And also when we're talking about global issues, everybody can give their own unique perspective.
Thank you, Jo. All of this is amazing. We have another question for you, which is, how would you describe the perfect environment in your classroom, and which teaching approaches or methods do you prefer and do you use?
Okay, so this has been a lifelong journey for me, but when I was a student, I was always told that it was bad to make mistakes. And then as time has gone on, my students have taught me that the perfect learning environment is one where everyone feels free to make mistakes and sees failure as an opportunity to get better. So when students come in at the start of the year and they see that they don't have the grade that they want, I try and convince them that this is just a starting point. This is the start of a 2-year journey, and where they can get to the point that they want to be at. And it would be very boring if we were all perfect straight away. There would be no point in coming to school at all if that was the case. And then with my subject, I'm afraid I can't speak for others, but we have lots of speaking in class, very necessary for English B, so that everyone has an opportunity to improve their English in a safe environment where everyone is in the same situation. Lots of presentations, so we're trying to include opportunities for students to develop their soft skills, so that will be helpful to them in whether they go to university or they go straight into a job. They have the opportunity to become more confident. Unfortunately, in my subjects, there's a lot of writing as well. This is my favourite part though, getting to read it all. But yes, there is also the traditional approach as well.
Thank you, Jo. And we have one last question, which is, could you share an interesting moment from your teaching experience at UWC Dilijan?
So I think this is cruel to make me just pick one, because we have had a very interesting year. So I'm going to over-deliver. The first thing is, when students had to leave in March, that made a massive impression on me, because students were leaving our DP2s without the prospect of possibly seeing each other again, possibly without being able to see their teacher again. When we left the school, we didn't know whether the IB exams were going to happen or not. So I was really, really impressed by how the students all helped each other out in that very unusual situation that we were in when we were learning online. And they were a massive emotional support to each other, because it was something quite traumatic to, you know, one day for things to be fine and then a couple of weeks later the world to have changed. But yeah, the sheer resilience of students really impressed me. And then I have also really enjoyed the cultural evenings and the conversations that they've engendered in class later. I'm from the UK, so I look at everything from a British perspective, and when I see students at cultural evenings, I learn much more about their countries, and then that's something that we're able to discuss in class as well. Yes. And then finally, I must reiterate online learning. It is a massive challenge for everybody, and teachers possibly know less about communicating online than students do. So the students have been really, really helpful in saying, this doesn't work for me, I need to do it this way instead, why don't we try this approach? So this kind of group effort to get through everything has been really, really special.
Thank you very much, Joe. It was really interesting and it's such a valuable information. And thanks a lot for mentioning the online learning, because this is the reality we have to adapt to nowadays. Now I would like to speak to our university counselor. We would like to speak with Harvey. So, hello Harvey, how are you?
Good, how are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
So we'll dive in directly. And so our first question to you is, what is important to know about university counseling and UWC Dilijan?
Okay, so my role, kind of this department, the goal is to help students to kind of figure out their post-UWC lives. And I like to keep it that kind of vague because yes, many students end up going to university, the vast majority do, but there are other paths that students can take post UWC. So it may be a gap year, it may be going into directly into a job. For some, it's going to some kind of national service before maybe going to university. So different paths that students take. So my kind of role is to kind of guide them as they figure out that next path. When it comes to kind of the university counseling side of things, you know, our students have had really, really amazing success, kind of getting into some amazing universities. Of course, you know, there are those kind of top universities where we have had students going to over the past few years. You know, this past year we had a student getting into Harvard, Stanford, we had some students getting into Brown. But we also have students at universities like Cambridge in the UK, Utrecht in the Netherlands. So we have students going to universities all around the world. That said, one of the kind of key responsibilities I hold is to help students to figure out that best fit universities. So yes, we have students going to these kind of top universities, but my role is to help students to figure out the universities that will be the best academic, extracurricular, and financial fit for them. And it may not be any of these top universities. There are amazing, amazing universities that are not the kind of highest ranked, whatever kind of ranking system is out there. So there are a lot of students who I know come to UWC and they end up going to these really great universities that for many of them, they may not even have heard of these universities before they even enrolled at UWC. So part of my role is to expose students to the variety of universities that exist out there and to help them to figure out kind of what universities would be the best fit for them kind of moving forward.
Thank you very much, Harvey. So as we're talking about universities now and about getting into universities, could you please elaborate if there are any special scholarship for UWC students to continue their studies in universities?
So kind of a big bonus of joining a UWC and being a UWC student is access to a scholarship called the Davis Scholarship. There are over 90 US universities that are Davis Scholarship partners that will offer students this scholarship. The dollar amounts will vary, but students really have access to some incredible universities. What I love about that Davis kind of partner list is it runs the gamut. So you have your kind of Ivy League schools are on there. You have top schools like Stanford, Northwestern, but you also have really, really great public universities like University of Florida, University of Virginia, University of Oklahoma. You also have your small liberal arts colleges like Middlebury, like Macalester, Amherst, Williams, so some really top schools. So our students, UWC students, have access to this scholarship, which is really like a big bonus to them as they consider the path ahead.
Thank you very much. So Harvey, the next question will be, how do you guide students towards choosing the right university? Could you please refer to some of the events you organized throughout the years, or probably like the way you handle it?
Okay, so I'll give you just kind of a basic sense of how university counseling operates from a day-to-day, term-to-term kind of point of view. So when students begin their first year, their first term, I try to not be too much of a presence in their lives because I want them to, of course, really acclimatize to the environment here, to really get into their UWC experience and really adjust to life here. And then in term 2, so their second term of their first year, that's where I start meeting with them to discuss how their time at UWC is going, but also what kind of initial thoughts they may have about life after UWC. Beyond that, I will also offer presentations on different university systems, kind of give them a sense of what the requirements are for different systems. And then one of the big bonuses of attending a UWC and UWC Dilijan in particular is that we have university visitors who will come to present about their universities. Now we're in an online space, so a lot of those visits happen virtually. But there are a lot of university representatives that will offer specific sessions just for UWC students. And in some cases, just for UWC Dilijan students. So students really benefit from that experience to learn about the university directly from the people who work at these universities. But also, it's a great opportunity for them to connect with these university representatives who oftentimes are the ones who are reading their applications. So it really is a great opportunity for them. So kind of moving forward, at the beginning of second year, that is when the application process for many students really gets into full swing. And that is kind of my heaviest period. We're kind of in that period with you guys now. And that's when I help you guys with creating and finalizing your university list. I help you guys with that process of actually applying, of writing the essays, of figuring out, how to fill out the application, financial aid, how to apply for scholarships. So, I guide students through all of that. And, you guys, know that process kind of well, or you're kind of getting into that process now.
Thank you very much, Harvey. Yes, we do, and big thanks to you. Thanks for the recent event we had about writing the essays for the Common App and for the UCAS. It's insightful and it's just brilliant. We have one last question for you. You've mentioned that UWCD is special in a way in terms of university counseling. So if you compare it to the institutions you've previously worked in, what would be something even more distinguishable in UWC Dilijan in comparison with the other schools?
Yeah, when I think about the process of university counseling here and the students that I work with, I'd like to kind of, commend you guys in some way. I find that UWC Dilijan students are among the most ambitious, but also highly motivated. I believe Joe mentioned that earlier. And it helps me with the process. It makes this process easier for me to guide you guys. It doesn't feel like I have to kind of drag you along because I'm dealing with a group of students who are just motivated and they're ready to kind of get going with that process. In other ways that it's been different here, of course, it's UWC and UWC Dilijan as well has kind of name recognition among a lot of universities. So there are universities who, for instance, in a pre-COVID world, and hopefully in a post-COVID world, university representatives would actually travel to Armenia solely to visit UWC Dilijan, which is really, really just incredible. So, you know, that definitely kind of helps for students. That definitely helps with the process. So I would say that those are some of the differences that I've seen. But it's been, you know, this is my second year here, and it's been really, really incredible, you know, working with the students here like yourselves. And I look forward to kind of seeing what happens with this group this year. I mean, it's a tough year for you guys to be applying, kind of given everything that's going on. But I think it's going to be a really, really successful year. So I'm excited to work with you guys this year.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's now move on to our alumni, Lucia and Jeppe. Hola, Lucia. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about your UWC Dilijan experience, and also what are you doing now, and how would you stay influenced by UWC Dilijan?
Oh wow, that's a lot of questions. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for having me here today. It is always a pleasure to, you know, to stay connected with the school and to be able to participate in things like that and like contribute to future generations coming to UWC Dilijan. So a little bit about myself. I was part of the first generation of UWC Dilijan. So I was there 6 years ago in the opening ceremony. It's crazy to think that so much time has passed. And it was a wonderful experience to be part of the first generation. Of course, there were lots of challenges, but I think the rewards have come afterwards when I've been able to see everything that the school has achieved over the past years. And so yeah, being in Armenia was a wonderful experience. And that has definitely influenced everything that I've done afterwards. So after graduating, I came to the UK. I came to London, to UCL, where I studied liberal arts, but mostly focusing them on anthropology and let's say I continue studying Russian as well, and kind of focusing my studies on the area. And then afterwards, now I'm doing my master's. I'm still at University College London, and I'm doing a master's in documentary film. And that is something that was definitely influenced by my time at UWC Dilijan, particularly by CAS. There was this CAS activity organized by some of my teachers that was called Regional Cinema. And every Sunday evening, we would just get together and like watch films from different regions of the world, and students from that area would introduce the films. And it just showed me how amazing basically film is as a medium to, you know, bridge cultures, which is what UWC does. And other than my, I guess, university education, since my time in Armenia definitely influenced kind of my interest for societies, for studying societies more in depth, and for the power of culture as well to bridge like societal difference, so to say. And also I've still been very connected to Armenia. I've gone back, I think, on 2 summers, different occasions, to do internships in the school, which has been a great opportunity, because I feel like something that I really appreciate about the school is that it has been there for me at different stages in my life. So it was there for me, of course, when I was a student, but also afterwards, after my first year of university, when I started developing an interest for communications and like media, I was able to spend my summer in UWC Dilijan working with the communications team, which was amazing. A year after, when I was more interested in, let's say, humanitarian work, I was able to come back and work for Aurora, for the Aurora Prize, which was a wonderful summer as well. And and then since then also everything, and I'm also working as a journalist, and I work for a magazine that covers kind of like Eastern Europe, the Balkans, the Caucasus. So I tried to apply a lot of like what I discovered in Armenia in my work as well. So I don't know if that answered the question, but in a way, both at the academic level UWC Dilijan taught me to just be ambitious and use personal connections to kind of like build community and achieve what you want. And at a personal level, it just taught me the power of community and the importance that like a multicultural understanding has for me.
Thank you very much. That was really insightful. And, you know, it's a brilliant thing to hear that you studied in UCL. And then Gabriel also just mentioned that he also went to this university. And it's just an amazing feeling to realize that you are our sixth year, as it is tradition to say. And now you and Gabriel are also related because of your university. And so, Jeppe, now we would like to ask you the same question. We would like you to introduce yourself and kind of elaborate on how UWCD and IB influenced you.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm Jeppe. Before I start, can I please say that whoever is sitting and watching these videos and this live stream should just apply. Like, Dilijan was one of the best things that happened in my life. Any UWC school is good, but Dilijan has a very good spirit. So if you're sitting being like, oh, should I go or not? Go. Okay, so back to the question. My name's Jeppe. I studied. I'm the third generation of Dilijan. So, and after Dilijan, I decided to stay in Armenia, and I've been here ever since. I started an NGO, a social development NGO, working with kids and young people in the villages of Armenia. And I'm doing that for my third year now, and I'm probably going to stay here for a lot more years. I think the number one thing that Dilijan taught me was a sense of ideology. It sounds a little bit vague, but just imagine bringing these 200 young, super empowered, super excited people together in one school. Everyone comes for some ideological reason besides also wanting to learn and study. So kind of the different philosophies and the different cultures that goes together in this school, these gave me a good sense of being like, okay, like if I want to do something, I can change something. Like if I work hard enough, if I inspire my peers, anything can actually be done. And I've learned that both from within inside the curriculum in the IB, but also in the extracurricular activities. So number one is ideology and learning how to follow that and trust your own judgment. And the second thing is also community, as Luthia, she just mentioned, because me and Luthia, we haven't gone to school at the same time, but we're friends. And we met each other at random times in London. And after graduating Dilijan, wherever you go, whatever country you go to, you'll have a friend there. You can stay on their couch. Thank you for that. And, meet people from all around the world. And UWC is such an old institution. I had a summer job in Denmark on a small island as a waiter. And suddenly I talked to this guy and he was like, yeah, I went to a school in Wales in the 60s. And I was like, oh, what school? And he's like, it's something you probably don't know about. It's called UWC. And this guy was the first generation of UWC in Wales. So meeting all these cultures in a beautiful school also kind of makes the world smaller in some sense.
Thank you very much, Jeppe. We have another question for you, Luthia. From your own experience, does UWC and the IB education make you more prepared for university life?
Definitely. Like one of the most challenging aspects of, let's say, the academics at UWC Dilijan was that coming from the Spanish system where the only emphasis is in you memorizing, UWC basically really taught me to take ownership of my own learning. And because everything is so project-based, it wasn't so much like, oh, do you want to study physics? So this is the book, memorize it, go to the exam. It was more like, you're studying physics, so how can you apply it to something that interests you? Find a topic and then do your project about it. Or same for the extended essay and all these different components of the IB. And as part of that, also the IB and UWC in particular encourages you to reach out to people. If you want to write about something related to history, maybe talk to someone from that country or reach out to someone else. And all of that really prepares you to your university education, which is basically the time when you decide what interests you and you work on it. So I found myself very, very well prepared in my first and second years of university, especially compared to other people on the academic level. So it's definitely the IB, and especially an IB education in UWC, where let's say it's much more holistic than just the time in the classroom, prepares you really well for your education afterwards. And then something else that an IB education, a UWC education gives you, that it's invaluable, is confidence. And as Joe mentioned before, confidence in like making mistakes. And that's something that, and confidence in like talking to people. And that's something that is really, really useful at university and like for looking for jobs afterwards and basically everywhere in life.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So now I have a question for Jeppe. Jeppe, as you mentioned, you would like to continue your job with an NGO in Armenia and you want to keep staying in this country. So when you first arrived at Armenia, what was your impression? How would you describe Armenian culture, and especially in the context of UWC Dilijan, how they work together, and was it really an incentive for you to keep on living in Armenia and contributing so much to the country?
Yeah, so my first encounter with Armenia was in the airplane. The people that fly to Armenia with the airplane are normally Armenians, and whenever there's a European person walking around, they interview you very harshly. So I was sitting there talking to this lady, talking about her family and her home and these things, about how lovely Armenia is. And you know, she's the type of, she was the person that she wasn't that hungry, and she said that you're a young man, you should eat my sandwich because you should grow in these kind of things. And I thought, okay, fine, this is just a very sweet lady. But then quickly I realized that every Armenian is like this, the most warm and most hospitable people in the world. So if we're talking about the reason of me staying, it's the people, 100%. UWC Dilijan, they gave me the tools, and as Lucia said, the courage. They kind of gave me the armor to be able to go out in the world and pursue my own dreams and ideology. Then the Armenian people have warmly hosted me for almost 5 years. And I feel at home even in the most like cold, the coldest mountain or on the least busiest road and these kind of things. I'll always be welcomed by like, hey, how are you? And like, do you want a hot chocolate or something like this? Contrary to many Armenians' belief, I think there's a lot of opportunities in Armenia. Many Armenians go out of the country to study in Europe because there's this glorified sense of Europe being like a golden place where you can do anything. But within here, people are so open to collaborate, to build new things. So I see a lot of potential here, and I've explained it to many of my friends who would come on visits and worked in an NGO, and they all say the same, that the Armenian people are very good at opening opportunities. So relating to the current conflict, this also hurts me that there are people who would try to hurt these wonderful people in this small country. But I know everyone is strong, and they have the strongest will and the strongest soul here. So I have no doubt that everything will be okay in the end. And yeah. So I forgot the question, but I hope that I said something that sounded nice.
You did more than that, Jeppe. Thank you very much for what you've just said.
So we have some questions from the audience. The first one is directed to Sophie. What are the exams for the application to the global selection process?
I'm afraid I have to pass that one because I'm not familiar with the global selection process. Perhaps Gabrielle can answer that.
Yes. Please, Gabrielle.
I'll take that one. So when you apply to UWC, the first decision-making point is whether you're looking for financial support in the form of a scholarship or you are capable of paying your own fees. And let me explain why. As I said earlier, we rely on benefactors, on donors, because we try to make sure that every worthy student has a chance to study UWC. And to do that, we have to make sure that any funds we receive go to people who really need it. So if you can pay, we expect you to pay. If you can pay a bit, we'll try and top up the rest. And if you cannot pay, we'll try to pay everything for you. So for those students who are not looking through a scholarship, the UWC movement created what's called the Global Selection Program. It's about to be launched for this year. And what we encourage you to do is you can come to our own website, uwcdilijan.org. You can register your interest. And as soon as the Global Selection Program is out, we'll put you in contact with them so you can continue with your application.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. I think now it's all clear.
Yeah, definitely. Then we have another question that could be directed to Harvey, which is, are there new universities that joined and accept IB? I think this question is for like university all over the world, like Europe.
And the general reputation of IB for universities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy question to answer. Pretty much like the vast majority of universities around the world will accept the IB. And universities value the IB for the quality of students that come out of the IB diploma program. As Lucia kind of mentioned before, universities see the IB as a very rigorous curriculum. They know how intense the IB can be, and they value that. And yeah, there are many hundreds, thousands of universities, thousands that will accept the IB around the world.
We're glad to hear that. Thank you very much, Harvey. And now I have a question for Joe. So, as I mentioned, a lot of English on your lessons, but what about the students who come without good understanding and knowledge of English? Is there any support provided to them? Did you have students like that? Can you describe their experience in UWC? How was it?
Okay, so we have a very wide range of students, as you said. When students arrive, we ask them to sit an English placement test, and that will tell us if they're capable of doing language A or whether they need a bit more support. So we offer support lessons for students who need them, and that's ongoing, and it can happen even in second year as well. So we have had students who've come that don't speak a very common language, and maybe, you know, French could be their second language, and then English is their third language, or their fourth language, or their fifth language. So yeah, it's maybe at the start of their journey of learning English, but if you spend 2 years in a fully English speaking environment for every single subject, you make massive progress very, very quickly. And yes, there's always going to be students like this every year, but I think that everyone who leaves leaves with a kind of a good proficiency in English, at least to communicate, and we certainly wouldn't leave anyone behind. We make sure these things are picked up really, really quickly.
Thank you very much. This is really important for all of the applicants. Please don't worry about your English proficiency level. As Yeppe just said, if you're still hesitating, do apply. And so the next question is also directed to our alumni. Lucia and Yeppe, could you please answer it? So what would be your main advice to the applicants? If you remember your experience of applying to UWC Dilijan, what would you suggest people do? Just the best tips.
Do you want to go ahead, Yeppe, or should I reply? Yeah. So it's quite, I can't give an answer that specifically talks about the process because it's very different from country to country. But I would say two things. One of them, which I think it's very important, and it may sound like a cliche, but it is true. That's why it's a cliche. And it is like, just be yourself, you know. At the end of the day, what makes you fit in UWC is your personality and who you are, and also who you want to be. So not necessarily all the things you've achieved now, but all the things you'd like to achieve. So just let that shine through and be natural. But the other thing, having said that, is really think about it. So while you have to be yourself, before you apply, really read through what UWC is, look at different websites of different schools, look at what they've done, and think a lot about your own life, what has inspired you, the things that interest you, and the real reasons why you want to apply, because that's what they want to see. Not necessarily all the things you've done, but more like the things you'd like to do, or like your potential. So yeah, be yourself, but be prepared.
Jeppe, please, do you have something to add on?
Yes. Well, I can only say that I completely agree with Thea. It's very important to be yourself, because remember that colleges are not like, you're not a walking CV, you're not an exam paper, and you're not also just going to be a student. You're going to be living with your teachers and your peers, 200 people together. If you're not at least open to that and trying to live on a campus, trying to live with people like this, it's what I'm trying to say is that it's also very interpersonal things that you're going to do. And so what I actually wanted to say was, be yourself, and at your application, the best tip I got also was like, help people get up in the application process. So many people in applications like this go around in Denmark, we say, with pointy elbows, like pushing everyone away, like, look at me, I'm this, I'm that. Be yourself, be honest about it, but lift other people up at the same time. Don't try to push yourself ahead of others, because if someone sees in your application somehow that you're helping one of those people who are more silent or introverted, if you're helping them speak or to emphasize their points, that's a very good interpersonal trait to have. And I'm sure that the application, the national committees or whoever is responsible for the applications, they see that.
Thank you very much, Jeppe and Lucia. So we have some final words to add. Thank you everyone for joining, and the Future Studios for hosting this meeting. Please join us for the second session next week, October 22nd at 6 Armenian time, to learn about the residential life and co-curricular activities at UWC Dilijan. The third session, called Ask the Head, will be held on October 28th, always at 6 Armenian time. And during this session, the admissions team will be also answering questions about the application process. If you have any admission related question, please email at the email that we are gonna write in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. Once more word. So we're current students, but it was so much insights and so much valuable information that we actually learned through this webinar with you. So special thanks for that.
Thank you very much to everyone. Bye-bye.